Hi everyone, it's Sam, NFTstatistics with your proof daily NFT countdown. Lots to talk about today. Hope you had a great weekend. Going to talk about Owls, Yuga Ordinals, Punk's going to Blur, a couple other cool sales. Let's get right to it. First of all, in terms of volume, my favorite data provider, Flipside, is adjusting to the new OpenSea contract, so their data's a little behind. So I'm grabbing some data from my friend hilldabi.eth, and you can see here that volume is kind of at the low end of the range for where we've been post-Blur airdrop. So kind of at the low end there, still obviously well above where we were before all the farming began. Large cap index was down 1% over the past 3 days, up a touch yesterday. In terms of what moved, VFriends down a lot. I think that's just because they were up a lot last time we checked, and a lot of times they go up and then they come right back down. Coda's up 8%. Why is that? I think there is a little bit of reason here. You can see here's the chart for Codas. Again, Codas are 10,000 other deed lands that have this Coda on them, trade at a really sharp premium to the other deed floor, basically. And I think the reason is that Yuga Labs, they filed a trademark for this "Don't Drink Me" beverage, and on the can was the Yoda image, or was the Coda image, so people thinking maybe there's more to come there. Mid-cap index basically flat. A lot of strength, though, in Valhalla, On-Chain Monkey, Quirkies, Potatoes. Potatoes is kind of an interesting one. Ray, the CEO of Memeland 9gag, came out, made an announcement about staking for Potatoes. A little bit more of an update of what's to come for that, and that seemed to be something that the market responded positively to. You can see that Potatoes really have been rallying over the past couple weeks, so nice to see that strength. In terms of art projects, only 5 collections had more than 5 or 10 ETH of volume over the past day. This is just the past 24 hours, but tons of strength in Fidenza. We'll talk about, or tons of big sales, 2 big sales. We'll talk about one of them a little bit later. Chromie Squiggles, a little bit of volume. Genesis by Claire Silver, 122 ETH sale. But going deeper into Genesis by Claire Silver, over the past weekend, this project completely rocketed. You even had one sale at 25 ETH on Friday. So really just tons of movement here. The AI meta back perhaps. Claire announced with this tweet, something's coming on Monday, probably a new project from her. By the time you guys see this, this will probably be public information. But yeah, nice to see that strength there. Story number 2, ASCII Owls completely blew up the internet this weekend. ASCII Owls just completely on fire. What happened? What are the owls? The owls are these very basic kind of ASCII old school symbols, that with different symbols that have different colors and create owls in these ways. I think this was a free mint. Started out as 0% royalty, anonymous founder. Not a whole, it took 20 minutes for it to mint out. So kind of interesting, but then it just completely caught the momentum of the DJing community. 43,000 trades just in the past 3 days. Top sale at 6 ETH. The floor got as high as 0.4 ETH. 60 ETH plus of royalties were earned just from people paying the bare minimum. I think what happened here was the aesthetics kind of got some attention. People like this very old school ASCII kind of symbolism into this owl. And then it just became a momentum DGen play. Here's the price, how it moved. You can see up 40x, really kind of took off pretty quickly. And in terms of where the trades were, most of the trades, again, were on Blur. You can see, and we saw this last week, with Momoguru. In the very beginning, the first couple hours, it seems that there's a bit of sales on OpenSea, still less than 50%. But over time, that market share really shifts to Blur as it becomes more of a trader market. I think one of the things that happened here was just the airdrop farmers on Blur really kind of took over here. I'm circling this Blur screenshot where you can see there were 5,405 ETH of bid interest, a bid wall in this project at one moment. So 5,000 ETH, just crazy numbers. Obviously, those bid walls can come and disappear extremely quickly, but still risky to put it up. And I think that got all the momentum. A tweet from the original founder of this project, the creator, he said, he really had no intention of this being anything beyond just a bunch of ASCII Owls, but he's now going to try to figure out what to do with the project. Who knows what that's going to mean? He said he'll use this thread. He doxed himself. A couple things going on there. But overall, I think that this was just kind of old-fashioned DGen style. People got on a momentum wave. One thing I always say is that momentum begets momentum in the space. NFTs are momentum assets. And with Blur, you might see more momentum going forward. But I also say, if you're going to buy something like this, know your exit. Know when you want to get out, when your thesis is working, when it's not. Because over time, in a project where there's not a ton of provenance and not a ton of plan, not a ton of reason to think that this is going to keep attention over the long haul, we're probably going to go lower over time. So know when you want to get out if you want to play that game. Story number 3, Yuga Ordinal Punk auction begins. I said Ordinal Punk. I just meant the Yuga Ordinals auction begins. Again, this is some of the ARC. It's going to be going until 3 p.m. today Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern time. In terms of how the bidding is going, the top bid right now is at 2 Bitcoin. That's 28.6 ETH. Again, by the time you see this in a couple hours, I'm sure it'll be higher. And the low end of the bid is 1.6 ETH, 0.1112 Bitcoin. We'll see how this evolves over time. I think these numbers are a little bit lower than people expected. The advantage of being the top bid is you get the lowest ordinal number. Again, and a lot of times that can add a little bit of provenance, but we'll see how this bidding evolves. A couple things from their FAQ. One is that the inscription is going to take about a week to be delivered. They say that inscribing is part of the experience. And when you send them the money, you have to give them an address where you want them to send the ordinal back to you. And they say that that cannot get changed. So if you input the wrong address, then you're not getting either your ordinal or your ETH back. Certainly not getting your ETH back, which I thought was a little bit weird that they'd be so unforgiving of that. But that was something they said in the FAQ. And the other thing about this is the way it's being done is basically when you put in your bid, you send the Bitcoin to Yuga Labs and then just hope that they're going to send you the ordinal or they're going to send you the money back. A little bit old school. And this picked up a little bit of criticism. You can see here, Giancarlo criticized this, basically said, you're basically just trusting the promise to manually send it back. A couple commentators got on to Twitter and said this is a scammer's dream. My take here is that your money is almost certainly okay here. I think, Yuga Labs is a trustworthy company. And I think that, obviously there are so many stakeholders and this is one that they could not mess up. I do think there is precedent here where there probably will be more who are doing something similar in the future, and those you really want to be careful about. So this is not a good precedent for scammers. I think this one is okay. We'll see how that plays out. Fourth thing to talk about. This is a story I have a lot of thoughts on, but punks start trading on Blur. Now, just to give a little bit of background, punks have almost always traded on the Larva Labs website. Historically, almost all the volume is there, but you can see in this chart, the red line is when punks are trading off of the Larva Labs website, and the blue line is on. Over the past couple of days, there's been a huge pickup in volume that is happening on Blur with wrap CryptoPunks. So you have to wrap the punk in order to trade there, but you're seeing a lot of volume move over there. There was a little bit of red in other parts of this chart because you can trade wrap CryptoPunks on OpenSea, NFTX, there are a couple other places where it can be done, but none of that has ever really gained a ton of traction. Couple interesting things about punks. I tweeted this, a few weeks ago. Only 2.5% of the entire supply has had a single trade all year. This was a couple weeks ago. I think it's now up to about 3%. So overall, punks have been pretty stable without much movement. So it'll be, this chart here looks at how many punks per day, new punks per day are trading. You can see over the past couple of days, a little bit more, but really nothing to write home about. So it's not a thing where, as of yet, we've seen tons of new punks come online. Probably just the punks that are on the floor, get traded a lot, are starting to see some volume on Blur. Now, this chart is one of the craziest things in the market right now. And I just want to really try to dig in and understand this because it is pretty crazy. If you look at the red line on that chart, that is the floor price for CryptoPunks. And it has basically been between 60 and 70 for the past 7 months. In my entire time in NFTs, I've never seen something with this level of stability. What that blue line looks at is the number of days since the CryptoPunk floor moved 10% in 1 week. Okay? And it has now been 220 days since the CryptoPunk floor has moved 10% in 1 week. If you look at Bored Ape Yacht Club, for example, never has had more than 45 days without having a 10% move in 1 week. So what's happening in CryptoPunks is really unprecedented. And it'll be very interesting to see if trading on Blur has an impact on that. Now, a couple reasons why this Blur move is pretty interesting and important is that all the punks trading on Larva Labs, there have been some serious downsides there. One is that there are no collection bids. Two is that when you bid on a punk, you have to tie up the ETH. So if you're going to bid 60 ETH for a punk, you have to put 60 ETH there and you cannot use that 60 ETH anywhere else. You have to pay gas on every single transaction. Even if someone buys your punk, you have to pay gas to get that ETH. And then the last thing is that there's a lot of front running. Sometimes if someone puts in a bid and that bid gets accepted, other people can pay more gas and basically steal that punk at the price. So there's a lot of issues with the Larva Labs website that's basically been there for 5 years. Why has it not been fixed yet? And I think there are two reasons here. One is that the Larva Labs site is zero royalty, zero fee. So there's very little incentive to compete because the minute you start charging money, people will just go back to the Larva Labs site where they can trade for free. Two is you have to wrap the NFTs, which is kind of a pain. So I just think this has never been a business that people have been like, oh, I'm going to go fix punk trading because they know the minute you start charging money, people are going to go back to Larva Labs. You can see OpenSea has had this ability for a long time, but with their 2.5% fee in the past, it's been a bit prohibitive. That's where Blur enters. Okay. Blur, we all know, is not optimizing for profit right now. What they are optimizing for is market share and getting more people trading on their platform, even if they make no money. So they're saying, okay, I mean, they're not really saying anything, but they're more than happy to have punks trading on their platform. And beyond that, they're giving away Blur token to anyone who does. So what happened here is Punks OTC, who is the biggest trader of punks, basically started this movement where he said, let's get the liquidity onto Blur. I can keep doing exactly what I'm doing right now, but I'm going to get paid Blur token to do it. Okay. And this is a very important person in the community. Punk OTC has been involved in 41.6% of all CryptoPunks trades over the past 7 months. Since September 1st, Punks OTC has either bought or sold on 41%. Crazy number. So what he does, the community tends to follow. My quick views on this: 1, I think that this is good for Blur because they're adding volume and they're adding high ETH paying users. 2, it could lead to more people who are just kind of playing around in the Blur ecosystem to buy CryptoPunks. So that's good for punks. 3rd is this is the perfect collection for airdrop farming. What do airdrop farmers want? They want a stable floor that they feel is protected. You know, this floor has been at 60 ETH for maybe 3/4 of a year. So people probably feel pretty comfortable putting some bids in on Blur. I do think that the front running issue is really good to try to find some solutions for. On the other end, I do not think this will ever be a revenue generating product for Blur. This isn't a product that I think really just the main thing that's happening here is people are saying finally a free exchange that has the functionality to kind of help us with some of these bidding. But the biggest issue, and Punks OTC has said it, is that you're getting that free money from Blur. I've said this a bunch of times. They're dropping about 800 ETH on the community every single day. Of course, Punks OTC wants a piece of that. Long-term, does this matter for Punks? I don't know if it really matters. All that really matters for long-term is supply and demand. If people want to hold this stuff for the long haul, I think it's kind of a net neutral for most parties involved. But while we're getting that free money, I think people will take it. Last thing to talk about is a few notable sales. This Fidenza sold for 350 WETH. In ETH terms, this was the 12th most expensive, I believe, Fidenza sale of all time, certainly top 15. The seller was someone from the Proof Collective. I believe his name is Bro Jackson, so congrats to him. Second sale to talk about, the Sewer Pass, number 88, sold for 17.5 ETH. Again, the better the scores, it's Sewer Pass score number 88, different number, but the better the score, you know, the likely better NFT we're going to get with that new drop. This is kind of 17.5 is kind of right in that range of where they've been trading. You know, some have traded as high as 25 ETH. You know, I think this is more about timing than it is about exact number, but a few of the other sales here. And then the last, or a big art sale to talk about called Le Dernier Culte, 35 ETH. This sold for by an artist named Tijo. Now I looked into Tijo's page, his identity. It says that he is a visual artist who explores his personal struggles with mental health, OCD, and other psychology. He's known for creating a series of artworks with this blue background, these blue rooms, and then these red figures to represent the human archetypes. Here are some of his other sales. The one on the right is actually the meme card by 6529 as a 337 ETH market cap. I believe this other one of one sold for 40 ETH. Either way, 35 ETH for the sale. Congratulations to the artist and the buyer. He also has a lot of open editions. If you do, or not open, but editions. If you do like his work, you can check out Tijo editions if you want to buy. And then the last trade to talk about, Ordinal Punk trades for 3.5 Bitcoin around, but it wasn't just 3.5 Bitcoin. It was this crazy concoction of various NFTs, a world of women, a mutant ape, $40,000, and half a Bitcoin. I put it all together. I get to 3.5 Bitcoin, a little bit on the low end of where we've been for these trades, but still, you know, a little bit of liquidity there. Always good to see. That's all for me. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you did like it, if you like the show, subscribe to the channel. We'll be back tomorrow and every weekday with another show. Have a good day.